Hello. It's been a while. So this is my second take because my first take with all this Gemini energy, I went off on a random tangent and I realized I just had to restart. That's kind of the nature of this these energies that we have right now. We have a whole lot of Gemini. Speaking as a Gemini with Mercury Gemini, I was born. Actually, I was born 4 days from now, 33 years ago. So I was born with Sun and Mercury in Gemini, and Sun and Mercury are in Gemini right now. So the entire world's kind of getting a taste of what it's like to be, in a person like me's brain, Gemini's Mercury Gemini brain. It always makes me smile because it's a lot of energy. It's a lot of. It's not like it's better or worse than other energy. It's just very like high strung, a lot of thinking, a lot of talking, etc. There's a lot of jokes, a lot of lightness to it. There's challenges, of course, too. Overthinking, for sure. But I think the most important thing, before we get into some more like details of Sun and Mercury in Gemini, and the Venus is also in Gemini, is Jupiter's in Gemini. This is a huge development. Jupiter is in a particular energy for about a year at a time. And it takes 12 years to go through all the cycles. And so we just wrapped up Jupiter and Taurus. I don't know the exact day from the top of my head, but maybe a week and a half ago, 2 weeks. I don't think it's 2 weeks. It was something like that, a week and a half ago. So we have Jupiter and Gemini for basically the next year. And it's so exciting. I'm feeling it myself. I'm seeing it in people around me. The vibe of a couple of things. The vibe of wanting to learn, wanting to expand our knowledge, our abilities as an extension of knowledge. So learning new things so we can do new things is really in the air. And pun intended, because Gemini is an air energy, and air is all about the mind, and Jupiter is all about expansion and growth. So we have a really fantastic opportunity over the course of this next year, and especially where we are right now, where the Sun and Mercury and Venus are all in Gemini for the next about week and a half, something like that. I'm not sure when Mercury moves on. Mercury is a very quick energy. Mercury rules Gemini as well as Virgo. So, but yeah, Mercury orbits, in its orbit, it moves very quickly in relation to Earth. So probably about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, somewhere in there. It doesn't, but my point being, is we're starting this off with a bang, this Jupiter and Gemini transit. And that's really the most important thing I could talk to you about today. There's Mars and Taurus. We'll get to that. But again, a new transit with Jupiter or Saturn is a really big deal because these two astronomical bodies move fast enough to keep things fresh, but they move slow enough for it not to be like a giant marathon. I always say the Saturn transit of about 2.5 years is a marathon, and it is. But still, a year for Jupiter, 2.5 years, it goes by pretty quickly. I really recommend focusing most on those transits over really like pretty much everything else except for say like the lunar phases. Okay, where is it new moon, or where it is right now? It's like waxing gibbous, No, I got that wrong. Waxing crescent, making its way to first quarter, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going off on a tangent. And again, that's going to happen a lot with Gemini, all of this Gemini energy. We'll get into that. But first, other tangents. But yeah, I think long story short, there's also a beautiful optimism with Gemini energy. Sometimes it's over optimistic, sure. But I think really there's something definitely to be said for how optimism, thinking that you can do things, makes things possible. Obviously not every single thing, we don't want to be ridiculous with it. Like, if I believe I can fly when I jump off this building, then I'll be able to do it. Like, no, we need to be practical, of course. So let's have some common sense. But that withstanding, I think is the right word, having that, we can then enjoy this optimism and feel the feeling of, okay, let's try new things. Let's learn new things. Let's talk to new people. I remember 12 years ago when we last had Jupiter and Gemini, it was a really exciting time in my life and the people's around me, because, and again, the entire world was experiencing this, because there was just a feeling of communication, of sharing of ideas and knowledge, and yeah, it was a little scattered, and I think that is the challenge. There's two main challenges, but before we get into that, again, I just really want to encourage you to enjoy the optimism, enjoy the feeling of, like, basically challenge yourself to learn something new each day in a meaningful way. We'll get into that challenge in just a little bit. Well, I guess, or we'll just cover it now. But like, don't bring in garbage information. That's one of the challenges with Jupiter and Gemini is, I have a really good friend with this energy, and he's so intelligent, and he's able to gather and curate information so well. But he also has a kind of like I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this. I'm not trying to be condescending. We all have challenges, but he has kind of a blind spot, a vulnerability of like what information is really worth his time. And he finds himself like going into article after article of shit that, quite frankly, like I can see, being his friend and over the course of years, does not help him. and it's just a distraction. And like, then he's like sharing it. I'm like, dude, with all respect, like, this is not bringing anything to my life. I don't need this random information, and this is me. I'm a Gemini, Mercury Gemini. I love random information, but that's the challenge with Jupiter and Gemini, is having almost like a kind of like a floodgate being too open for information, where it's like, believe anything that you hear, any bit of information is, worth my time and energy. Like, no, not at all. It's funny because even though I have Sun and Mercury Gemini, I am extremely selective about information in my life. Again, open mind. But especially if something's very negative, and I mean, don't get me wrong, like I will listen to, not so much listen at all, but I'll read so much each day. And it doesn't matter if it's like positive or negative. I don't mean in that sense. I just mean negative, like it has to do with opinions, people talking out their ass. It just feels like this isn't helping anybody to learn anything or to be better informed or anything like that, negative in its intention, not so much negative bit of information, because information is just information. But when people are misusing information, that's I think that's going to be a big challenge for everybody over the next year, is just to stay focused. and that's especially where we are right now, because that's a big thing for me, with Gemini, Sun and Mercury, having so many different interests, even if they kind of fall into the same general category, like with music. But I also, I do this, I play drums, I play bass, I play guitar, I love to sing, I do lyrics, I mix and master, I engineer, I produce. It's like, it's a beautiful thing to have so many interests. But over the next year, and that coming full circle, like, make sure you're learning something that's meaningful, that's worthwhile for you. Make sure that you're feeling invested in what you're learning, in a positive sense, like you're passionate about this is helping you in some kind of way, either to heal in that sense emotionally, or to be empowered, to be to have greater clarity about who you are or what you're doing or whatever. The information can be about anything, but really be selective with the information. And that includes, of course, who you're talking to, what you're reading, what you're listening to, podcasts or music or whatever. But especially when it comes to information, so more so podcasts, YouTube videos, be very discerning. I recommend that. And I think the other thing, the big challenge is also overthinking with this. I remember part of it was definitely valid, but part of it was definitely exacerbated by transiting Jupiter, Gemini, and all this other Gemini. But I'm trying to even remember when it was. Sometime last week, I just had really bad anxiety. My mind is always racing, but it's not necessarily anxiety I'm feeling, but in general. But that day it really was, and I was just overthinking, and I was worried, and honestly, in the days since, it was just about a new project. Not details don't matter, but yeah, it's gotten so much easier than it seemed at first. So that's a big thing, is don't jump to conclusions with this energy over the next year, especially for the next 10 to 15, 14 days, something like that. No, it's not even that long. It's about the next 10 days. And try not to overthink. And if you find yourself overthinking, go for a walk, meditate, take a deep breath. Ask yourself, am I thirsty? Am I hungry? Oh, speaking of which, am I, excuse me, come back to earth, come back to your body, come back to the physical reality, excuse me, of existence. And don't get too caught up in the mind, especially if it's like fear porn, where you're reading information that is just like, oh my God, the world is ending. Oh my God. It's like, especially if it's stuff like that, where you just can't stop reading and can't stop listening or whatever. Take a breath, disengage, and come back to your life and just ask yourself, okay, what can I do to focus on making my life better? Because that's the beauty of this energy is, and I remember from 12 years ago, we can really have incredible clarity and orientation in our life of figuring out what direction we need to go in our life, either in a really like big long-term one or a short-term one, even of like, okay, I should do this next, or, I should learn this or whatever. It can be a profound time. That's what air energy is all about, is to get us to be thinking in different ways. And that's the beauty of new ideas and new thoughts, is they change our lives for forever. So as long as they're positive ideas, are helping us in some kind of way, and they're based in reality, they're based in fact, they're based in truth, we all are in for a really wonderful time over this next year. And again, a lot of people will deal with the challenges, like every energy. If they're not consciously aware of themselves or these energies or both, a lot of people will just be talking and saying shit and wasting time with information that isn't really factual and isn't helping them in any kind of way. And then overthinking it and just kind of going in circles with it. And, that's their prerogative. But I encourage you, having received this bit of information, to help you, to keep this in mind, to help you over this next year. Quick, we're going to wrap this up, because I know I go on and on because it's been a while, these kind of videos. But long story short, with the other Gemini in there, I can't say it enough, like the communication is really great right now, especially I would say communicating with kind of diplomacy, with being able to find mutual common ground, especially to be artistic in some way, creative. This is a really great time because of the stellium of Sun and Mercury and Venus all in Gemini. And I think really the challenge is like to not talk too much. I lost my voice a little bit from talking so much yesterday, and it was a joy. It was wonderful. But at the same time, I was mindful of that today when I was singing. I was like, okay, I've reached the limit. I can feel it in my vocal cords. I'm going to hurt myself if I don't if I don't stop talking. And again, this is kind of a good, I know we kind of covered this with the Jupiter Gemini thing, but especially with Sun and Mercury and Venus and Gemini, knowing when to speak is an art, and so is knowing when to shut up. So, again, when it's worth it, like yesterday was wonderful, totally worth it, no question. But I think for all of us, we have to be mindful of like, okay, is what I'm saying right now really necessary? Do I need to say this? Is it true? What I can't remember the saying, but there's like 3 criteria of whether we should say something. Is it true? Is it worth, I should look it up. I feel like it would be really helpful. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it in time, but essentially, is it true? Is it helpful? Stuff like that. I don't know. If anyone knows it, please put it in the comments. I would really love to for people to actually like see exactly what I'm talking about. But let's cover the last 2 things. So Moon is in Leo right now for today. What day is it? Is it Monday? For Monday, and I think for the better part of Tuesday. So have fun. Try not to be too dramatic, but have fun in a good, healthy, dramatic sense. Laugh, play, enjoy life. Even if you're hard at work or something, enjoy. That's what this kind of time period is for all of us. And lastly, Mars in Taurus. So Mars just went into Taurus in the last, I think, 36 hours or something like that. It'll be there for about 6 weeks. Mars in Taurus is funny because on the one hand, it has the hardest challenge out of all of the Mars energies to get stuff started. I've noticed with friends who have this energy, they can really fall into a rut where they're just doing the same thing each day and they're not like necessarily making a positive change in their life. But I've also noticed, and this is the flip side again, every challenge or every energy has its challenges, but every energy has its gifts too. And if we overcome those challenges, in this case with Mars and Taurus, the inertia, the gift is substantial. It's fantastic, significant. And I've noticed with those exact same friends that their work ethic is actually incredible. They just have to get started. That's the thing. You know, I always think of like the ball's got to get rolling. It's the stone's got to roll down the hill. That's Mars and Taurus right there. Is once it gets going, it's so solid. So I think especially since it's the beginning of this little 6-week season that we have of Mars and Taurus, is just get started right away. And if you've already been working on stuff and are already in a good routine, then this energy should be pretty easy to not only keep that going, but to really like cement it. That's the beauty of Taurus energy coming after Aries energy, is whatever the astronomical body is, Taurus is the great grounding force. And not just, I mean, you know, all earth energy, Capricorn and Virgo as well as Taurus is grounding, but Taurus is like fixed earth. So it kind of zeroes in tunnel vision. And so for all of us, we can really benefit from just going the extra mile with this energy. And it's interesting too, because it's so relaxed, so calm. So in those same friends, you know, who have this incredible work ethic, as long as they get started, they're also patient and they're relaxed and they're chill, and they just have a natural sense of the seasons of life and nature, and not trying to force things, and just, you know, live and let live, and just let things roll along at their natural pace. So I think that for the next 6 weeks, this is a good opportunity for us to be able to be more patient than we have been for the last 6 weeks when Mars was in Aries, especially when it comes to anger. Blowing up in anger, even if it feels good in that moment, it never actually is worth it. It's one thing to like use the anger in a healthy sense to do things that we otherwise wouldn't be motivated to do, or to say things in a way that is still peaceful and loving, and we're not attacking anybody, like name calling or attacking their character or whatever, but while still expressing that anger of like, this is upsetting, you know, a boundary has been crossed, something needs to change, etc. Anger is not bad in and of itself. A lot of people don't understand that, especially in like the new age astrological community. But at the same time, of course, anger is like a wildfire, you know, and it can get carried away, and especially over the last 6 weeks, we might have experienced explosions. I mean, I certainly had a couple of times where I'm like, I had to consciously just calm down and be more patient and chill the fuck out, because it was like, I either would laugh at myself, or I would say to myself, I need to relax. This is not that big a deal. Nothing is that big a deal. So that's definitely a great positive of Mars and Taurus. But, you know, on the flip side, is being more patient and not being so quick to anger or whatever. But on the other side, just like with the inertia thing, there is that potential challenge too that we need to be mindful of burying anger. You know, those same friends, I've definitely had challenges of not expressing anger. And that is a, you know, again, there's pros and cons to everything. That is a plus side too. For example, the last 6 weeks with Mars and Aries is fire Mars, and this is coming from Mars and Leo and Mars in the house of Aries natally. It's as much as it, you know, we don't want to be a wildfire or an explosion with our anger, but it's nice to just like get it out, and then it's expressed, and then we're good. We move on with our lives, we move on with the day, everything's good. Mars and Taurus can tend to sometimes be passive aggressive, but more so, definitely that's a potential challenge, but more so just to bury the anger, to be like, I'm just gonna not get upset even though this person is really upsetting me right now. And again, on the plus side, it has a lot longer of a fuse, so for all of us, we're able to benefit from that. But again, sometimes we need to just kind of like let stuff out, and then it flares up, goes away, we move on. No one gets burned or anything. It just kind of takes care of the obstacle in the way. So that's something to keep in mind too when it comes to anger. Anything else to cover for today? As always, I'm doing readings, info in the description, book a reading with me. I think that's okay. No, that's good. One last thing. Saturn is in Pisces. Saturn's been in Pisces for a while now. I think since February of last year, March, something like that. And we're in that sweet spot of a Saturn transit, like I was saying before, or did I say it in the first take? I can't remember. But Jupiter takes about a year in an energy. Saturn takes about 2.5 years. And these are really good long-term life chapters to help us to understand our lives and to navigate them. And hence why I really recommend being consciously aware where these energies are in general for all of us, but also specifically for where it is in your chart, because that it makes a big difference. And consciously knowing the shifts from one chapter from another, and like the different themes and the different opportunities that they're presenting, and also the different challenges that we need to overcome in order for us to grow and become more wise, and also to make the most of those opportunities and whatnot. It's really substantially helpful to know where these energies are. So anyways, we're at that sweet spot with Saturn and Pisces, because after that first 6 months to a year is, I've noticed, the most challenging time of any Saturn transit, or any like Saturn house transit, if it's beginning in a particular house, because we have to, it's almost like a new classroom, right? New subject, excuse me, new teacher, new expectations, new work, new skills that we need to build. And Saturn skills and knowledge build on top of each other. You learn this, and then you learn that, and then you learn that, because you had to be able to know this to be able to get to here and there. You know what I mean? It's like everything connects with everything, and you can't rush it, and you can't skip ahead in any kind of meaningful way. You have to build over time with a really solid foundation and a really solid layer each time. And so we're at that sweet spot where we've had about 15 months, 16 months. That seems about right. Something like that. With this Saturn transit, and Saturn will continue to be there for about another year and a couple months, 10 months, maybe something like that. I feel like, my brain is so tired. 10 months is less than a year. 12 months is in a year. Okay, so we're looking at like 15 months or something like that. Anyways, but long story short, that's the other thing, is make sure you get plenty of sleep with the Jupiter Gemini energy. I know it can be challenging. Meditation before sleep helps me tremendously. 5 minutes, just a little quick meditation, so helpful to reset my brain. And I'm still finding, I usually do, but especially in the last couple of weeks, like I'll find myself having to allot time for overthinking, because I kind of have to exhaust my brain for 30 minutes of thinking, and then I can finally go to bed. So that's good to keep in mind. But yeah, making sure our bodies are taken care of is really important during this next year, because our minds can be so active, and that's great, but we have to keep everything in balance. Anyways, the Saturn and Pisces thing. I'm really enjoying how this transit is helping us to get into our subconscious and root out fears and understand at a deeper level what's going on. And that whole anxiety thing that I experienced was a really good opportunity in and of itself. There's a square of Saturn and Jupiter happening over this next year that can be challenging. I think the big challenge has to do with overthinking in relation to old fears that we need to release, but we haven't released yet. And if we're not really thinking deeper, that can be a hell of a downward spiral. But so long as we're seeking to bring peace to our minds and to have greater clarity and to treat any anxiety that comes up, any overthinking, and to be at a good balance of taking care of our bodies as well as taking care of our mental health, essential during any time period, but especially, like I was saying, being discerning with information over the next year. As long as we're doing that, I think then this Jupiter Gemini energy will help us to get deeper into the Saturn and Pisces energy, and to do the work that Saturn always wants us to do. And in this particular case, the work is understanding, again, our subconscious at a deeper level. And so just being mindful of like, okay, why am I thinking about this thing that triggers me so much? What is this fear? Why am I afraid of that? Do I need that? Is that helping me in my life? And even if something is really intense, is there some way I can reframe this so that it doesn't have such a grip on me? Saturn and Pisces, and I think especially since Neptune's in Pisces too, but Saturn and Pisces in and of itself tends to have a lot of imaginary fears, tends to experience some kind of, and we're human, so we all experience pain at some point in life. That's part of life. We experience that suffering, as the Buddha would say. But from there, it's like FDR said, the only thing we should fear is fear itself. And really, like, that's a great saying, but also really we shouldn't be afraid of anything. I write about this actually in the book that at some point this summer is going to get done. But like fear, the only thing that we should really like be afraid of is an existential crisis of immediate proportion, aka a bear is about to eat us, or a shark, or something. We're about to get eaten or killed by some kind of wild animal or human, right? It's like, that's when we should feel fear. But everything else in life, and obviously there's a certain sense of ideally everything else in life, right? But generally speaking, most people have a social network. They have family, they have friends. And even if we're not born into family and friends we can count on and feel connected to and whatever, we can find people out there. There's so many people on this planet. We can talk to, we can heal, we can learn from, we can share our troubles and make it easier. There have been psychological studies that show that even just talking about our challenges with somebody and really feeling heard, feeling listened to, helps us tremendously as human beings. My point being, most of the things that we think and feel are life and death, especially over this next year, are not really life or death, life or death year, I'm saying, and should be treated in proportion to what it is. Does it require, something that's on our mind that's kind of stressing us out, or that's concerning us, does it require attention? Does it require focus? Sure. There will be things that we have to really focus on, but I just wish to encourage you to be mindful of your deeper emotions when fear is coming up, because this transit of Saturn and Pisces can be very confused of what is real and what is not in terms of fear. And again, the opportunity here is to go deeper into our own subconscious and to release that fear, to let go of what we don't need anymore. And part of that process is consciously being aware of, why was I afraid of this in the first place? What experiences did I have in the past? Going deeper into this past of each one of us, of our lives here on this planet, into childhood, and what did I experience that led to this? Let me understand it, and then from there I can better navigate what's going on with my subconscious. And that's the beauty is, on the positive side, with the optimism of Jupiter and Gemini and Saturn and Pisces, being able to, once those kind of fear blockages are dissolved, we can really build with the highest parts of what Pisces is all about. Because Saturn is all about building. And even though a lot of it's going to be internally building rather than externally building, still we're able to do both, and they're connected to each other. And really we have to build internally within ourselves, our own we have to heal and empower ourselves, etc. And it's different for each one of us, but it's still the general overall journey is the same as humans. It's part of the human condition, is to know ourselves, to understand our fears, to resolve them over time to the best of our abilities, and to overcome challenges and to grow and to learn things and to do things that we didn't know or didn't do before. And we have a real opportunity with Saturn and Pisces to be able to resolve any kind of deep emotional blockages and to thus be able to build Saturn, our dream life, Pisces, and to have our subconscious help us to move forward. So I just encourage you to really explore your psyches. I mean, during any time period, but especially over this next year, as we make our way forward with Saturn and Pisces and Jupiter Gemini, to make the most of this Saturn and Pisces transit. And to be asking yourself of, okay, now that fear is out of the equation, or at least, I'm not letting it rule me, what life do I want to live? How do I want to be? Who am I as a person? Like my true essence, not maybe who I feel I have to be or what other people want to be or whatever. It's like, no, who am I? And how do I live authentically, and how do I keep building my dream life? And again, it's different for everybody, but that opportunity is the same universally around the world. As long as we just figure out the fear, we can really, our subconscious can work with us in really powerful ways. And the key to figure out the fear, again, is to understand ourselves at a deeper level. And that helps us also to see the world around us at a deeper level and to make more sense of what's going on, especially with the Jupiter and Gemini transit. And then we find that the fears are really just illusions, unless there's a fucking bear. In that case, that feel the fear, feel the adrenaline, and run. But aside from something like that, and also be mindful. It's like, just because you have a fear response, take a moment and really look at the situation and ask yourself, is this appropriate? Do I need to feel fear? Don't assume. The more questions that we ask, the more that we'll be able to explore. And that goes for our minds as well as our hearts, as per our psyches. Well, this ended up being a super long video anyways. Of course it did. That was Gemini. But yeah, as always, I'm doing readings. I hope you have a wonderful year with Jupiter and Gemini and Saturn and Pisces. I hope you have a wonderful season with the Mars and Taurus. Wonderful conversations and laughter and jokes and wittiness for the next 10 days with all this other Gemini energy going on. Take deep breaths, go for walks, eat good food, nutritious food, drink plenty of water, meditate, and I think you'll be able to make the most of these energies, and you can avoid some of the challenges that can arise with them, like the overthinking and whatnot. Infinite love to you, my friends. Namaste. Peace. I just want to say, it doesn't matter to me the numbers. I mean, it's nice to reach. It's nice to reach as many people as possible. But quite frankly, I'm super happy with my journey, and I don't take it for granted that anybody even listens to what I'm saying. So, especially if you've made it to this far in the video, I just want you to know that I do appreciate you tuning in and at least considering what I'm saying, whether you agree with it or not, or whatever, whether you use it or not. It is a blessing. So thank you. And how cool that the internet, that we can connect in this kind of way. It's very exciting. So yeah, thank you. Peace.